So the purpose of this video was to install some individual voltmeters to monitor the voltage of each of the 4 batteries. I also included a charging ports for each of the batteries to see if I can make that useful in case of trying to balance the charges on the batteries. And this turns on with the auxiliary position on your key switch. And it turns them on and gives you the voltage of each of your batteries. I think it was a success. Time will tell. So to find a place for mounting the voltmeters and the battery charger ports, I decided I'm going to go ahead and pull this side panel off. I've been trying to avoid that because it looked kind of complicated, but I looked at the exploded diagram and it looks like it's just a handful of screws and it should come off. So got my T30 out with my impact driver, and so I'm going to take some screws out and see what happens. So the instrument panel we've had off a few times, so that's kind of a no-brainer. And we got these 2 screws over here by, whoa, a lot of Loctite on those. And we've got 2 over here. Yeah, get up. We've got one here behind the storage compartment. And one of them is going to be this one back here, which we normally would take out for the back cover to get to the batteries. And this one here, which I think I stripped out. Oh, came right off. It must be the other one that I stripped off during the battery conversion. All right, let's see if it comes off. So that's all loose. That's loose. And I've got my wires here on my meter, battery meter. So I'm going to pull that off. And the cover comes off. So that wasn't as bad as I feared. So it looks like there is some room here. If we put in my 4 little voltmeters, plus my charging ports for the charging individual ones. So I'm going to double check that a little bit to see how much clearance I've got here. But I think that's where I'm going to put them. I'm just going to line them up right here on this cover, and that'll work pretty well. All right, so I'm going to put my little paper cover on here and line it up with the crease here in the cover, more or less. It's pretty close. So we're going to put these 4 gauges in here. Something like that. So those are going to be in a center line about there. These will be on about here. I should be able to draw a line across there pretty close. Okay, so maybe about 8 inches. So 0, 2, 2. So we'll do 7.5 inches. Every 2.5 inches. Try that. Oops, a little slip there. About every 2.5 inches. So that looks. So I'm going to dive right in here and drill a hole. This is always kind of scary. Makes you hope that you drilled the right size holes in the right places. No, there are some ribs back here, but looks like I missed them. All right, that's close enough. Last video of doing this gauge, I'm just going to dive right in here. There, take this off. See what destruction we've done. Yeah, we're basically doing about as much melting as we are cutting when we put these, use a rotozip in this plastic. So, got to get a little sandpaper on there and clean it up a little bit. Okay, so I did some deburring. Got that kind of cleaned up. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the charging ports back in. And once again, according to my plan, white and blue go through here. This one is blue red. This one is red green. And the last one is white green. So let's get the nuts on. Put flux on 3 of them. Easier to solder up. Darn it. Pop them in the holes. And for your information, I can see in the display just slightly where the numbers are. And below the numbers, there's a V for voltage. And I'm making it so that the V points downwards. There we go. So I've got the 4 voltage meters mounted along with the 4 individual 12 volt charging ports. And that turned out to be pretty nice in there. Pretty proud of that myself. So the next thing to do is to find a mounting place for the relay panel, relay board. I think I'm going to try and put it up here, so it's going to be a little bit high. I can't really put it up here because the glove box is here. Instrument panel is going to be right in here. And I try to keep this up high enough up this way to keep it away from the ground being down here. And like I've said, this is actually all open to the underside, but this is the dust and accumulation from 3 years. So there's not too much stuff getting up here. So it should be relatively safe without an enclosure. So I need to find a couple of standoffs, and I think I'm going to orient it this way or this way, so I can access the wire ports here and the screws here. The only thing I have here is the plug, which is easy enough to put on and off. So we're going to try that. Probably about right about here, about as high as I can get it. All I have to do is find some standoff and some screws. All right, I went to my brass screw collection. Screws and nuts. And I found these to use as standoffs. Just round pieces of plastic. Got a little bit of thickness, so between the bolt and the standoff and the thickness of the plastic, I got plenty of room. So we'll pick a final position, and we got to drill some holes. I think we're going to go like that. Just need one extra set of hands. So what we're going to do is put the bolts in from this side, and we'll put the nuts underneath. Now, one of the other things I want to do is make sure, after I can find this hole back, there, that's better. All right, so I got the 4 screws in. It looks like they're clearing anything metal, so that looks pretty good. Got a nice, decent standoff there. Access to the screws and the wire holes. So that doesn't look too bad. So let's flip this over. There's the nuts. And what I'm going to do is put a little Loctite on them. Thread locker red. Never used this. All right. This will be interesting. It's been a while since I've used Loctite. Just a little dab should do me. If I recall right, the way this stuff works is it kind of seals up with the absence of oxygen. So as soon as you tighten this up, then it will harden and adhere. There we go. All mounted and secured. Ready for some wiring. Whee! All right, I think I'll get my continuity tester out and make sure I've got a good connection from end to end. just out of curiosity's sake. But other than that, the wiring harness is coming together. All right, wiring diagram here. Give me some clues as to how I wanted to do this. So I think, so from the outside, this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is blue. I'm sorry, 4 is, actually 4 is green. That's the last one here. Yep, green. Connected directly to the batteries, and there'll actually be 12 volts at each of these. I'm getting to the end of the wiring plan for the 4 voltmeters. Basically what's going to happen is this wiring group here is going to get plugged into the sub-wiring harness that's going to go into the 48 volt battery pack. So that's going to be connected to the batteries. This will plug into the batteries. So this whole side of the electrical will be powered by a 48 volt battery pack. This side here, this is the trigger for the relays. And for this one here, I need 12 volts. And there's several places to get the 12 volts from. And I think what I'm going to do for my case, and I'll go over some of the options, you can get 12 volts off of one of the four batteries, and you can actually get that from here somewhere, or you can get it off the 48 to 12 volt transformer on the mower, and I'll show you where that's at. You can also get 12 volts, I believe, and we'll check that, but I believe we can get it off the instrument panel at the USB plug. I believe that's 12 volts that goes into there, and then that gets converted to 5 volts for the USB actual plug. You might be able to get 12 volts from the LED headlights. Those are operated on 12 volts. But I'm not sure in the instrument panel if there's actually a ground wire to connect to for 12 volts, or if it's just the positive wire, and you'd actually have to go find out where the wires from the headlights go to find that 12 volt ground wire. So those are some of the alternatives. Like I said, I'm going to go with this battery pack. I have a garage door remote, and the battery went dead, and I found out that has a 12 volt battery. It's a 8. We're back at the side of the mower, the instrument panel side, and wanted to look for some options for a 12 volt power supply. This here is, I'll call it like a starter relay. This is a relay for the 48 volts. And this is what switches on the 48 volts to the rest of the mower. When you turn, and then this here is it's activated by 12 volts. There's 2 little white wires that come out of the solenoid, and they come up here to these posts. And if I touch those, there's nothing there, so you can't get any voltage there. But when you turn the key on, there is 12 volts here, jumping across here. So that's a possible 12 volt supply, and it's exactly 12 volts, and not 12.8 or whatever. That 12 volts is coming out of this transformer. This supposedly 48 volts going in, and 12 volts coming out to supply 12 volts to various operations. Obviously, one of these is this relay, the headlights, and I did check this one here. This is the USB port, and with the key on, 12.1 volts. With the key off, nothing. Now the plug for this transformer, the 48 to 12 volt transformer, the plug is kind of well hidden right here. You can barely reach it, so I can't even pin it to find out what the voltages are. According to the wire, and there's also a fuse back here, so if anything does go wrong, this fuse is fairly accessible right here, an automotive style fuse. Looks like it's got a cover on it, so the cover comes off, and it's a 2 amp fuse. And that's easy enough to come out of there, so I'm going to try that. There we go. Just the automotive style 2 amp fuse. Pop that cover back on because this is kind of exposed to the elements. So anyway, the plug's back here. There's supposedly, according to the wiring diagram, there's 5 wires going to it. 2 of them are 48 volts in, 2 of them are 12 volts out, and one of them is a control wire, which apparently would control this voltage regulator, this voltage transformer. I finished fabricating up this little mini wiring harness with a couple connectors to fit onto the key switch, and this will be the connector that plugs into the side panel. The connectors that you use on the key switch are kind of small. This is your traditional, I'm going to call it automotive type of spade connector. Used to be used in cars all over the place. This is the size of the connector used on the key switch. So I connected those to the wires and put a little shrink tubing on it to clean it up a little bit, to avoid, also to help avoid accidental shorts. So the key switch already has 2 wires for the on switch of the mower. And what you do is you plug these into the 2 connectors that are directly opposite those 2 connections. So these 2 connectors will be free. No contact on those. Gonna drop down here and probably pass through here to get to the side panel. And of course, so I think I'm all set with this. And the next step is really to slide the battery tray out and put that little mini wiring harness onto the batteries and put the battery pack back in. So that'll be our next move. Now we're going to see if I remember how to get the battery pack out. So we're going to flip the seat up. I'm going to pop up the battery access panel. Get that out of the way. And we need 2 Phillips head screws removed up here and that one 13 millimeter. Plus we'll unplug the battery pack. Phillips head, Phillips head. Put those 2 somewhere that'll probably lose them. Okay, so that's loose, that's loose. Next we do the 13 millimeter. See if I got that right. Yep, 13. Get that bolt out. Then, see, I have one connector I want to unconnect here. And then I got to take this one off. Might have to cut these wire ties here. I'll plug this one just to be safe. This white connector, squeeze it, unplug it. Squeeze it, unplug it. There we go. 3-wire connector. All right, let's move to the back. For the back, we need a T30 Torx or star bit to remove 4 screws. I already have the side panel off. That was 2 of the screws. I'm going to go ahead and pull it all the way out. And I just ripped that wire off. Forgot to undo the zip ties. So we'll fix that. Anyway, there's the battery pack out. And the idea was to get this connected up And one thing I did want to do, and I'm going to do that real quick, is these battery straps don't really serve any function. You can actually get to carry the batteries, so they're pretty light. But I'm going to go ahead and take these off because they just get in the way when you're trying to handle all this stuff. Okay, so according to my plan and my wiring diagram, I'm going to connect a wire to each of the positive terminals. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the black wire is going to go to this ground. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and take, is that 13? Yes, it is. I'm going to start out by taking these two off. For no reason other than I wanted to get this thing out of the way so I can get these battery straps out of the way and clean this up a little bit underneath here. More so I'll keep those. All right, back to the wiring diagram. So blue is going to go here. Blue up there. And then the green down here. Connected, cover. Slide that over. It's on this side. It's on that side. And that's about as far as that one's going to go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fix this one wire that I pulled off and be right back. And we got that all fixed up. All right, let's slide her back in. There it goes. And just unplug my, forgot about that one. That's for the new volt gauge. That was one of the other projects. Okay, we got that plugged in. Plugged in. Green wire plugged in. For some reason I'm thinking I'm missing a wire for this plug here. Where's that one at? I think it comes down from the charging port. There it is. This one here. Okay. Plug in the battery. So battery pack is all done except for bolting it down. So at this point I can finish up plugging in my other side panel, and we can actually check and see if this thing works. So the side panel, I'm going to hook that over the lever here. Get that halfway here. This plug here actually has to be fed into the battery pack area, which we've fed some other wires in there before. It just goes under here, and we're going to pop out up here. And I've got my new connector for the battery pack into the ignition switch. That's going to plug in here. And then we should have a plug for the old meter. And that's going to plug in right there. So everything's plugged in. The only thing missing is nobody's sitting on the seat. Let's see what happens if I turn the key to auxiliary. And I got nothing. Oh, because I don't have this plugged in. Let me turn that off. Let's plug this one in. Okay, so you got the 3 plugs from the side panel going to here. And the little wiring harness going to the auxiliary switch. You got the old meter plugged back in. Let's try it again. Auxiliary. Nothing. 4 LEDs are on. Nothing on the voltmeters. All right, got to do some thinking. All right, I got it figured out. The problem was that the alkaline 12-volt battery, the A23, the voltage had dropped to 10 volts. I must have shorted it out somehow. Then I tried another battery, and 12 volts was not enough to trigger the circuit board. So what I did was I went to plan B, and that was to use one of the batteries on the mower, and I think that's going to take care of it. So we're going to go ahead and put this on, at least temporarily, to get the wires plugged in. I'm going to feed the ribbon cable for the batteries. Feed that through here. Plug that in. There. Then 2 wires going to the auxiliary side of the switch, and that's going to plug in here. And the last one is going to be the plug that plugs into the old gauge, the volt gauge here. It has all the plugs in. Put this for that. The instrument panel. All right, so I think I've got everything plugged in. So I should be able to turn this onto auxiliary, and we should see these 4 voltmeters light up. And there they go. 13, 3, 2, 3, and 2. This one's been flickering between 2 and 3. So they're all pretty good, depending, based on the quality of the, see, and that's battery 4. So that's the one I'm actually pulling the power off of. to drive all of these. So okay, I'm going to do the side panel first, just for fun. My bungee cord here, 2 there. Connect the cable going to the height setter. It goes there. Second one goes down here. And all these screws are actually the same. It all depends on the only difference right now is the amount of Loctite that's on the threads. So 4 for the instrument panel, one here, one down here, and one here, and at least 2 left for the back panel. So we'll drive them in with the Torx 30. That's it. Now we'll move to the back. Well, actually, we'll do the center. Get that all buttoned up. See if we can remember everything that goes in back here. A 13 millimeter socket bolt. There we go. That one caught. Okay. Get all these plugs tucked in. That one's plugged in. Waiting for a screw. We're going to take 2 Phillips head screws. The long one will go in here. Get that started. Put that there. Short Phillips head will go here. Try not to break these. Done and done. So, this panel should fit. And then the back cover. Once again, we got these 2 little hook tabs that got to go into these slots. There's tabs in there, get them hooked up. Get these 3 tabs, these 3 hooks put in. 1, 2, and 3. That should be one bolt here. And the most difficult one, put in with no Loctite on it. Find one of the bolts with no Loctite. Probably the best chance of getting that in. Wiggle and shake, get those started. There's a little Loctite on it. Okay, we're done. Let's see if it runs. Okay. So the key on, gauges are working, put it on condition. Looks like we're moving. Like to hear that. I think we're all set. Thanks for watching. So except for that little hiccup with the battery and the battery voltage, it went pretty close according to plan for the last changes I made. And put that on the screen. It's actually pretty straightforward. I didn't really want to draw power off the single battery because by the very nature that would cause a battery drain on one battery, which will create potentially an imbalance in the batteries. But as I said, when it's on, the circuit board is only supposed to be pulling about 20 milliamps, and so that's 0.02 amps. And the 4 voltmeters, they're actually pulling their power off the 4 batteries. So, and that's only about 15 milliamps. So it really is not a big deal where you get the power from, I guess. So I ended up, as I stated, pulling the power off the one battery, and that'll be shown in the wiring diagram. It's pretty time consuming for doing all the connectors. The connectors, of course, are kind of semi-optional. You can buy connectors if you want to put connectors in that are pre-wired. So that'll make it simplify quite a bit, that you're not doing all those little pins and everything to get those hooked up in the connectors. So if you're going to attempt a job like this, you're going to have some capabilities for soldering. Did learn a few things about my soldering gun along the way. It has 2 voltage settings, and some of the wires on this little project that I did, they're pretty small wires because there's no amperage going through them. And those small wires do not like a big soldering gun, resistance type of soldering gun running through the wires. That'll burn the wires, and then you gotta, then the solder won't stick. I think that's about it. I'm gonna have to tally it up and let you know how much the cost of the components were. It was still relatively cheap. I'm thinking my goal was that it was supposed to be around $50, and it might have been a little bit less than that. But of course, a lot of the little components and pieces I had already on hand, like the little eyelets for the batteries and some of these connectors. So anyway, it was kind of satisfying for me. Now I got volt gauges for each battery, so I know that some people kind of to watch for battery imbalance, but what it's probably really going to be good for is if one battery takes a puke for whatever reason. Hopefully this will give you a clue as to which battery is bad, or if you have a real battery problem. So if all your batteries are 13.2 volts and except one of them's at 12.7, then that 12.7 battery's probably got an issue going with it. And I put the charging ports in there so I can individually try to charge the batteries with that new charger that I got. And the correct way to correct an imbalance on the batteries, I'll insert that information here out of the CHIMS manual that came with the batteries. And basically it tells you that you need to take the batteries out, hook the batteries up. Instead of being in series like they are in the mower, you got to hook them up in parallel. So you hook all the positive terminals together, all the negative terminals together. And I think the instructions are going to tell you that you just let it set. And it's just anyway, it was fun. Hope you enjoyed watching it, if you could watch the whole thing. And we'll see you on the next project.